Hey everyone, I wanted to talk about why it's so difficult to control our emotions and why I think social media does a really good job of explaining controlling our emotions incorrectly. Why I think that Taoism and Buddhism by themselves, from just allowing thoughts to be and allowing discomfort to be there, just usually isn't enough. I think it can work for some people, but for the majority, there's usually more belief work needed. I think, in my opinion, a mixture of Taoism, Buddhism, Stoicism, primarily Stoicism, and then Taoism and Buddhism are really good for allowing things to just be, even though Stoicism covers that greatly. But Stoicism is a little bit more in tune with going towards the hardships in life and taking them for what they are, where a lot of people take Taoism and Buddhism more of the easier path in life, which is completely okay. I think the mixture of both can be great. And why unconditional self-life, other acceptance, and the REBT principles from Ellis, who is, in my opinion, the most influential person in psychology that ever lived, and I think many people would agree with that, which came after the Freudian kind of methodology, etc., which has great benefits as well, and why we have such a difficult time giving up emotional control. But before we go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. We have that direct message link right to Phil. We can get you in pronto. Like I always say, we work with time zones all over the world. We have the webinars at 8:30 p.m. on UK times on Tuesdays, unless we're doing like a part 1, part 2. And I'll let you know more about that conference when it comes up. We're going to have basically a lot of speakers, a lot of guests. I'll probably ask some guests from the WhatsApp groups that have never spoke on stuff, coming to more real talks. A lot of exciting stuff coming our way. So with the invention of the internet and YouTube and podcasts, which is amazing because people can do what they want to do in the sense of making their own podcast and then having better revenue or income to do what they want to do, etc. But on the flip side and the cons, because remember, everything has pros and cons. Every single thing you could think of has some pros and some cons, sometimes more pros and more cons. The cons that come with social media is the illusionary response that anger and yelling at people gets you actually what you want. And it doesn't really get you what you want in the sense that it really harms you emotionally. So one of Albert Ellis's best quotes from his book, How to Control Your Anger Before It Controls You, which is inside of The Stubbornly Refuse. You have these books right here. You have the anger one, which is right here. It's a great book. I've read almost all those other ones. Adjuncts to the reading list. Always read those books first, of course. Is that the best way to get better at playing the violin is practice, practice, practice. And the best way to get better at anger is practice, practice, practice. Now, in society, if you go on YouTube and watch, what do most people like to watch? Political debates, religious debates, health debates, Andrew Huberman stuff, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, etc. A lot of great guests, a lot of great stuff, and a lot of that on a lot of those shows. But a lot of really problematic viewpoints on those things. And I'm just using this for an example. A lot of people watch Piers Morgan, right? A lot of stuff going on around the world, and people are just screaming at each other because they're very emotionally charged, because we each have a belief rigid system where we think this is what I want to happen, this is how I see it, and fuck you. And that's an understandable belief, but it's actually a massive emotional and behavioral weakness. It's not a humanistic weakness in the sense that it makes you a weak person. There's no such thing as being a weak person. Just like there's no such thing as being a good or bad person. Just like there's no such thing as being a basketball player, just a person who plays basketball. So it's important to get all those bases covered to understand that even when you're angry, people say, I don't want to become an angry person. They have a fear around that. That's what a lot of people with OCD fear. I don't want to become a narcissist. There's no such thing as a narcissist. They're just people that act in more narcissistic patterns. And then narcissistic patterns are viewed differently in different societies. So we actually don't have a universal global understanding of that. Just like any religious text, depending on who you talk to, could have a different interpretation of that text. And this takes and requires a lot of deep thinking. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this video and why it's so important to work on this is twofold. Number one, when you become more emotionally sound, which doesn't mean stoicism in the sense that mainstream media says, which is, you see these statues of like a Greek statue like this, and Stoics and like it's a statue. It's not even a human, so no response. That's not what Stoicism is. When one has never practiced Stoicism day in and day out for years and years, it's very easy to misinterpret and misconstrue what Stoicism actually means. What Stoicism is seeing the world for what it is, making the best of it, trying new things, going through with hardship, building discipline and grit, not so much living that minimalistic wu-wei lifestyle where you're going to a Buddhist monastery, which people are allowed to do whatever they want, but it's a little bit different from the Stoics. A lot of the most important men and women in Stoic philosophy really push the boundaries in political office and leadership. And I think, in my opinion, through a bias to you, that is a better way to live. Because that prepares you, because eventually things go wrong in your life. And if you only come from the perspective of, say, the Buddhist and Taoism, where you're just allowing things to flow and always being in the present moment, you don't really have any grit. And I've noticed that being around philosophy and studying philosophy for quite some time now, that the individuals that strictly live their lives through that, and the Epicureans as well, Epicurus' followers, which was another Greco-Roman philosophy that would go back and forth with Stoicism in ancient times, where there's great importance with all of that. But I think the mixture of all of them in particular scenarios does the best. But I will say that I believe that Stoicism is the king of philosophical perspectives. But it's hard to become Stoic. It's hard to have a conversation with someone about a debate. It's hard to own a business and maybe your business is worth $30 billion and you have a company that says, I'm going to drop you as a sponsorship unless you vote for this person. It's very easy to sit back and go, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want, motherfucker. And I know it's easy to do that, but the actual problem is it's a childish response. And I don't mean the human that does that is a child, because that wouldn't actually be a correct statement, but that behavior is childish. It's a screaming temper tantrum response, not being able to sit back and say, wait a second, I can just say, hey, look, I understand where you're coming from. That's really unfortunate. Maybe we can work through this together and that. But what happens is people think that doesn't actually get you what you want, which is also not true. When you sit down with someone and have a constructive conversation, even when the other person is being hostile, there's a better opportunity for emotional playing field to be leveled. But when you're screaming at someone and then they get agitated and then they scream back at you, it builds that up. I've been practicing this for almost 4 to 4.5 years. But even before that, I was slightly studying this for 2 to 3 years. I'm reading a lot of books on how to discipline and better yourself, but not in the typical sense. Then I really fell in love with philosophy and Stoicism and unconditional self-life, other acceptance, and the principles from REBT. And then I was afraid of losing who I was. That was a big one. I'm not going to be the life of the party anymore, which wasn't necessarily true. I always wanted to be the outgoing character. I wanted people to know who I was at all times. And you become addicted to that emotional outbursts, which actually becomes a problem. So the reason why I wanted to make this video was because it doesn't need to be that way. Reading philosophy and understanding philosophical perspectives, reading the Bible, reading the Quran, reading the New and Old Testament, looking at philosophy, and everyone knows I'm basically, you could call it a devout atheistic belief system. I don't believe in any universal purpose. I don't believe in God. I understand why people believe in God. At least I think I do, from an outside perspective, from a bird's eye view. But of course, I have no connection with a spiritual context. So I'm always down to have conversations about religious context. But that doesn't mean you can't recover by being religious. We work with people all over the Middle East and the Bible Belt areas of America, all over the world in different countries. There probably is no organization on this planet, very few, to be honest, that probably work with as many countries as we do, just because of the sector of how it goes. OCD doesn't discriminate, right? It's all cultures, all color of skin, all belief systems, left, right, upside down, black, white, brown, Indian, everything. I work with everyone you can imagine. And it doesn't matter what the culture is. We're all here because we have OCD. And what makes having OCD so incredibly fucking cool, from the perspectives you gain, not the disorder in of itself, but the actual perspectives gaining from having OCD, is that it opens your mind to having these conversations and allows you to slow that down and having a good conversation with other people. An open dialect is a very important thing for life, again, for laying the emotional playing field. I can think of one example right now where someone got really mad at me at the road about 3 years ago in 2020. When I met Rob for about a year, he was screaming at me and yelling at me, and I diffused the situation by staying calm. And I watched this really angry individual get very calm. There was another time where I started arguing with someone on the road way before I met Rob. This is when I was suffering in 2019, like right in the beginning. And the guy was like, you know, what the fuck? And I was like, I'm so sorry, man. I'm just not having the best time. He was instantly diffused by that. That's not going to happen in a one-to-one ratio, but you're more than likely going to have a better chance for that. And in my opinion, the best way to inadvertently mold other people's perspectives and to maybe give them the best opportunity to learn from you is to work on yourself and naturally and innately let other people be inspired by you if they want to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I used to be a very angry individual for my belief systems. Shouldn't treat me like this, shouldn't do this, I must yell, you have to put people down in order for them to understand you. None of that is factual, none of that holds truth. The only thing it does is affect you. Look at people who are progressively becoming angrier and angrier. Think of someone you know on YouTube right now that has shown signs of anger outbursts or traits, and then those belief systems are getting worse and worse, and they're just becoming angrier and angrier and angrier. That's unfortunate. Thank you so much. Remember, look for the WhatsApp link down below. Direct message Phil will get you in pronto, and those webinars at 8:30 p.m. UK. If you don't want to do one-to-one sessions, there's benefits with everything, and then we go from there. Have a good one, everyone.